What's going on, everybody? Excited to be here tonight with all of you. I know we're missing a couple folks. They'll stroll on in, but we're excited to have you guys, some of you guys back, and we're excited to have these two gentlemen here that have blessed us with their time. And the goal of today is to give you guys as much knowledge, as much game as we possibly can so that you guys can do the same. So we're excited, and as you know, we're going to do it podcast style, so we're going to be filming a little bit because we know content is king. So we're going to be using this content on our social medias. As you guys know, we talked about this last time we had an event, and we talked about the power of social media. And just FYI, guys, in the last meetup, we actually raised a bunch of money, and we found, I think, one or two more deals just from that event alone. So the connections that are going to be happening in this room is where it's at. So make sure you get somebody's name, somebody's number, let them know where you're from and what it is that you do in real estate so that you can do the same. So excited to have Alex and Keston here with us, and I've kind of been following these guys for a while on Instagram, and just their story is super inspiring and, just really spoke to me. And so I asked them to come, and, they drove from far away to be here. So please have some questions ready, some things that you would like to know or walk away with here today so that we can honor their time. But without further ado, I'm excited, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Vince?
Yeah, I echo the same thing Hector said. We really appreciate all of you guys stepping out here and joining the meetup today to talk about multifamily. I know for me, and some of you guys may be in the same space that I'm in, doing residential, it may seem so far out of reach to get to multifamily or commercial. So I'm super intrigued to hear what these guys are going to be sharing with us, because we may find out that you may be one relationship or one resource away from getting into those bigger multifamily deals that you may be inspiring to do. So I'm super intrigued to be listening today.
Yeah, so let's start off by just doing a couple introductions. You guys know who I am and who Vince is, but I want to give you guys an opportunity just to kind of share who you are, a little bit about yourself and your story, and a little bit of what it is that you do in the real estate space. So we'll start with you, Keston, and then we'll give it over to Alex here.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I am Keston Glasgow. Like many of you, I used to be a corporate guy. Worked on Wall Street for a while in New York City. I used to be a cybersecurity engineer there for 8 years. 8 years I worked in IT. I actually worked my way up. I started as a help desk person. Then I moved up to doing security being a system engineer. Then I moved over to being a cybersecurity engineer. And I was a fake IT guy. I was cool at it, but when I go to conferences and I would hear people talk about like the real IT terminologies and stuff, I'm like, man, this is boring, And so, being there for a period of time, I always felt like there was more to life, because I used to be on the 34th floor, be looking out. I could see the Brooklyn Bridge. I could see Brooklyn from where my office. And I used to always think that there was a lot more to life. And after you have these thoughts of, well, somebody owns the real estate, somebody owns all these buildings and things that I'm seeing, at the same time, you're like, all right, I could do this. I'm going to go be an entrepreneur. I'm going to create this business. I'm going to have these big, lofty dreams. But then 5 seconds after, it's like, yeah, but you got a wife and kids. How are you going to fend for this insurance, right? Like, all of the doubts start to creep in, and it really kept me trapped for, I would say, my entire career there for over 8 years. I felt like there was more to life, and I wanted to do more until COVID happened. When COVID happened, they were giving out, they were letting people off, and so I took one of the packages that they had where I was going to get paid for 6 months. Although my job was secure, and my boss was like, dude, you sure you want to do this? Like, it's middle of COVID, right? Like, it's not the best time. You're going to move from New York to Atlanta. Like, you could work remotely. You know that, right? I'm like, I get it, but I got to go, right? And so I took my package, my severance package, and we started wholesaling. We started July 1st was my last day at my 9-to-5 job. Moved here to Atlanta, and in the first 6 months, we wholesaled over 1.5 times my six-figure salary in the first 6 months. And I was talking to Alex before, and please don't do this. I left without anything. I'm not saying, like, do not do this. You should have a better plan than mine. Mine was like jump out the plane and think about finding a parachute after, right? But I had, I'm spiritual, so I felt like this was what God wanted me to do. And in that, in 2021, because now it's great that you could wholesale and make money, but after you get that check, 5 minutes later, you're like, I got to do this again, damn, right? And I started to kind of reverse engineer, like, okay, going to work, you get paid every 2 weeks, every month. What's the only thing in real estate that can make you feel as secure is cash flow. And so I'm like, all right, I need cash flow. And so in 2021, we went from 1 to 21 doors, using all other people's money, no money out of our pocket at all. Just really learned, and I remember my first deal when I finally got a seller to say yes to a creative deal, but I didn't know how to raise money. But I still celebrated like hell because it was like I finally got somebody to say yes. Now I got to go learn how to raise capital. And so that's what pushed me to learn how to raise capital. And then in 2022, and you talked about getting into multifamily in 2022, in mid-2021, I started actually here in Woodstock. I joined a Facebook group, a multifamily Facebook group, just because, and being a fly on the wall, never said a word. These guys said that they were gonna meet up in Georgia. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna just go meet up in Georgia with these guys. And so I came to Woodstock and I met with these guys, and as they went around the room and we shared superpowers, I used to be really good at talking to sellers. I am pretty good at talking to sellers and closing deals and stuff like that. And so they were like, man, we need people to help close our multifamily deals, and you're good at raising money and all this type of stuff. I'm like, I'm your guy if you need help. So they started calling me to close their deals in multifamily, and that's how I got my first 48-unit property. They had found the deal, and a broker bought it to them. They needed help raising capital. I'm like, cool. I never raised $1.5 million all at once, but I could do it, and I believed in it. And so one thing led to the next, and we closed on that deal. And now we're under contract to close on a 138-unit, $40 million deal.
Come on, man. Put your hands together for that. That's amazing. Incredible. I mean, if you're not inspired, I don't know what you're doing here. But listen, this is an incredible story about just like going for it, man. And him and I were talking a little bit earlier. One of the things that you said that really impacted me is like knowing who you are. And I love that you said, you know, it's like I knew what my superpower was. So if you can take, and you know, one thing away from tonight, like learn about you a little bit. You know, we were talking about that, and understand what your superpower is and maximize that. So thank you for sharing, Keston. So Alex, tell us a little bit about your story, your journey, how you got to be the mogul that you are today.
So I moved to Atlanta when I was 17 from California. And I went to Georgia State here. I did accounting and finance, got my master's in tax. And when I moved here, it was like during the recession. So my first property that I bought in 2011 was $11,000. It was a condo on Claremont Road off of 85. Those were the prices back then. My first condo was $11,000. My second one was $16,000. My third one... This was 2011. Wow. The third one was $18,000. Those were the prices. Like next to Lenox, the condos there were selling for like $50,000. I remember $75,000. Houses on the Beltline, houses in Mableton, literally were going between 50 to 75,000 back then. So that's how I started with those 3 small condos. But I was working in corporate America also, so I worked doing accounting and finance and tax, and being in finance, tax, you work directly with like HR, you do the budgets and all that stuff for everyone in the company. I work for the Weather Channel next to the Brave Stadium. So I would see how much everyone makes, from the top executives down to the basic accountant or assistant. So, then I was getting like 80,000. And I was calculating, I was like, man, they're only giving me 3% raises, 3.5%. I was like, literally, to get to 100,000, 125,000, like if you do the math, you have to be here like 10, 15 years to get anywhere near that kind of money. I was like, this isn't going to work for me. So at that point, my first son was born, and I would leave to go to work 7 in the morning, and I wouldn't see him because he was still asleep. You come back home, same thing, 6:30, 7 after traffic. I never saw him for like the first few months. I was like, oh man. And then being in accounting, finance, you have to come in sometimes on Saturdays and stuff like that. So literally I was going to work, coming back, and never seeing my son. So I was like, this is definitely not going to work. So to that point, I was always buying rentals while I was in corporate America. I was utilizing my W-2 paycheck, leveraging it, going to banks and getting loans. That's why I always say it's really important not to just leave your job, because I feel like you need to take advantage and use that W-2 paycheck to your advantage. Who here works a W-2 job? Few people. That is like a golden ticket for the bank. That W-2 paycheck. You can have $1 million in the bank, but not have a W-2 paycheck, and the bank looks at you like you're nobody. So it's very important to leverage the paychecks. That's what I was doing. And then my goal was to get to $10,000 a month passive income, and I would leave. So I got to that point, and that's when I left corporate America and started doing real estate full time. Same thing, it's scary, because you have to pay for your benefits. You don't get 401k and all that stuff. But that's sort of how I transitioned. So from the beginning, I transitioned from small apartments to townhouses to flipping houses. Every time I did a flip, I would pump that money into buying a rental. So I never really kept any money. Anytime I would make 30, 40,000, I would use that as a down payment on a rental. Never would I take any money, basically. That sort of helped me leverage also to grow. And still to this day, with every profit, I don't really take any money, basically. And the advice on that is basically to live below your means. Or I see a lot of people sort of, you guys see it also on social media, sort of. I don't have any fancy cars. I don't have nothing. I drive a truck, but have $10 million worth of real estate. So it's sort of, you have to sort of create a lifestyle for yourself. I've been doing this for 12 years, so I've been sacrificing, and that would be my main thing, is to tell everyone, is sort of, you got to live below your means and sacrifice. When I was working in corporate America, I would be doing flips of multifamilies, like 8-unit. I did an 8-unit in Cedartown in Polk County. So from here it takes like 2 hours to get there. So on the weekends, I would be going there, waking up 6 in the morning, driving there to meet the contractors at 8 a.m. Because I would pay them every Saturday, basically. I'd be at the Weather Channel all week, go there, pay them, come all the way back home by 5 p.m. So it's just like crazy sacrifice. Nothing was easy, and nothing is going to be easy, sort of. But, you push through it one deal at a time. We all start with one deal.
Come on. Can we put our hands together for Alex, man? Incredible journey. Incredible journey these guys have had in real estate. And, we're next to some of these guys that, are doing it today, right? So you hear a lot of hoopla on social media and all that is good. But today, we're going to get into the weeds. Is anybody excited? Like, let's get into the weeds. How can we find our first multifamily deal, right? Because for me, I know that, like, that's like the goal, right? When you're in real estate, you want to get to a passive income situation. Like, you did it right away, right? And so how can we avoid the mistakes now so that we can set up ourselves for the future? So what we're going to do is Vince and I are going to ask a couple questions, and then we're going to turn it over to you guys. You guys are going to lead today's session. So let's get started. So Vince, I'm going to give you the honor to give these two gentlemen the first two questions.
All right, cool. So as you guys stated in your stories, you guys did a pretty good job of laying the foundation. And as you can see, it's two completely different stories. Keston got out here and he went into it full throttle. Alex been in it for about 12 years. And I'm pretty sure all of us have different stories of why we got into real estate. But I think the biggest thing is thinking about, from a long-term perspective, what is your goal long-term? And I think some of the things, especially newer investors, start to think about, they start to overanalyze what it takes to get into multifamily. What are some of the 2 or 3 things that you guys may come across that new investors find as a crutch when it comes to multifamily?
I mean, I would say it's the same thing. People always, the mindset is that I don't have enough money, I don't have enough knowledge of how to do it, or I don't have the confidence in myself. Mm-hmm. So the first step, I don't have money, that's the biggest lie and excuse I've ever heard anybody tell themselves. It's a lie that you sell yourselves. Today I closed on a building in Alabama for $1.2 million. When I put that under contract, I did not have that money. I did not have $1.2 million, but I gave myself 60 days in the contract to go find that money. Wow. So that's a big excuse. Second of all, the second thing is the knowledge. People fear that it's 4 units, 6 units, 8 units. It's no different. Instead of dealing with 2 toilets in a house, you're dealing with 6 toilets. Instead of dealing with 1 kitchen, you're dealing with 6 kitchens. So the process is literally the same. The only thing that changes is the zeros at the end of your expenses. So instead of, on a house, if you're spending $50,000, on a multifamily, you're spending $150,000 to, so that part is also, there's nothing to be scared of. If you can do a house, you can do a quadplex. There's nothing really changes. If you get into the weeds, the technicalities is when you get into plumbing, for example, on an 8-unit building, you can get into commercial plumbing grade versus residential plumbing, but you don't need to know any of that. When you hire licensed contractors, they'll tell you, about the technicalities of what kind of amperages you need for your meter boxes and what kind of plumbing pipes. So, it's the third one that I said is self-doubt. I think that's the biggest one also. The money, the self-doubt, and thinking that you don't know how. But if you bring the deal, you can line all that up.
That's good.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, I love his answer, and I would second that. I believe that everyone who wants to get into multifamily or has the doubts or anything like that, I like to go through it in a process, and maybe this is my technical mind, right? Where anytime you're anxious, it typically means that there's a fear of something or there's a lack of knowledge. And when I'm anxious about something, I ask myself, all right, do I know why I'm anxious? Do I understand this topic? If I don't understand the topic, then I need a person to help me understand this topic. And then I overcome my fear. Like when we were kids preparing for a test, we were fearful if we didn't study. But when we studied, we went in and we were confident. And so I approach multifamily the same way. If I don't understand something, I find the right person. I don't underwrite a lot of deals, y'all. I have never sent out a contract, ever. In all the deals we've done, I have never sent out a contract. Now, some people may say, like, dude, what are you doing? I found the right person, my wife. She's great at contracts. She loves doing contracts. She has way more attention to detail than I do. I'm a dreamer. I'm like, let's go after this thing. I'm a thinker. She will never do the things that I would do on her own, right? And so we complement each other. And so there's a lot of things that I don't do. I find the right person. That allows me to have confidence. And I know a lot of stuff high level. Ask me the details of it, I'm gonna say, let me make a phone call. I'll get right back to you, right? My partner handles that. And so that's how I would advise anyone. Any fear that you have, it's a lack of knowledge in that particular area. You need someone, you need a coach, you need somebody to be a blind spot keeper to help you move forward to get past that blind spot that you have. Don't let yourself build a story that's not real in your mind. You just need someone. Somebody has your money.
That's good.
All right. So, you know what? I think a lot of this conversation today is going to be around mindset, guys, because truth be told, like, you know, they keep saying it, but it really is the first step of getting into multifamily is knowing yourself, understanding your mindset, and then overcoming that, and then going to actually do that thing that you set out to do. So we're going to get into that a little more. My question, it revolves more on the practical side. Like, okay, I've gone over the hurdle of my mental incapacity to, you know, purchase a real estate deal. What do I do first practically?
Practically, what I did when I was looking for multifamily, every single day when I would log in and make offers, and I think
these are offers you're making just basically on the MLS.
on the MLS. A lot of my deals I got on the MLS, wholesalers, but to come into a habit, I think it's really powerful, and what helped me was literally every single day I would analyze deals and make offers, to the point where I could, within 1 hour, basically analyze 3 or 4 properties and know if it's a good deal or a bad deal. Same thing if whoever's doing flipping. Most of my houses I buy sight unseen. I don't want to go there. I don't care about what's going on there because a brick ranch in Mableton, I've done 20 of those. I know exactly what's in there. There's nothing good in there. What the hell am I going to see? Messed up plumbing, messed up electricity, a messed up roof, and messed up sheetrock. There's literally nothing to see. What the hell am I going there wasting my time for? The house I'm buying tomorrow, no inspections, there's nothing to see. Again, but you have to get comfortable. Like, you can't just do that. Same with multifamily. You have to, when you make enough analysis daily, you're going to become so comfortable that it's not going to scare you. And, you know, I want my offer to get accepted first before I waste any time going to the properties, talking to anyone, or spending any resources. So I would say practically, literally, if you want to get good, analyze at least 4 deals a day. And that's what I did. And I'm still doing that to this day. When I need to buy something, like I needed to buy several properties for a 1031 exchange in the past 2 months.
That's how you know you're rich, when you need to buy something. Go ahead.
All I did was just analyze commercial deals daily. That's all I did and focused on. Made offers. So you have to do that, I think, to get comfortable.
And so you were researching them on the MLS, and was there a specific type of unit like that you were looking for?
I mean, it depends where you are in your career. I mean, my specialty for multifamily was 20 units and under. I never did anything above that. So my logic was always that I don't raise any funds. I don't use any other people's money. I use my own money. So that's why I sort of stick to under that range, because going over that range sort of puts you in $1 million to $3 million range. So my niche was 6 units, 8 units, 4 units, and those deals are very powerful also, because off of every single 4 to 8 unit deal, you make at least $150,000 to $250,000. So when you listen to Grant Cardone, for example, on social media, don't buy anything under 100 units. Okay, well, you're an idiot now because you just missed out on a couple $150,000 paydays. You know, so don't listen to what they all say. Go big or go home. I mean, if you are an average person, it's sort of hard to go big from the beginning. You can go sort of from flipping one house to going to 100 unit you got to get the knowledge, I would say also, which is very important when you do these smaller flips. I don't know how you feel about you do bigger size deals. I don't do it.
Just a quick follow-up on that, Alex. So in regards to the resources, when you're looking for units 12 and under, what other resources other than the MLS that you're using to find those type of opportunities?
I mean, last year I did a deal with Andy here. He brought me a quad. I don't really, people sort of send me deals nowadays.
Okay.
I don't really go out looking for deals, but when I used to go to every single real estate event. Like from the age when I was 21 to 26, I literally went to anything that said real estate, anything that I could find on social media or anywhere that said real estate. I was at that event, like sort of talking to people. So a lot of people just send stuff to me, but when I had to, MLS, wholesalers, and usually the back end, how it really works is usually brokers have pocket listings, and they'll usually contact the 5, 10, 15 people that they know. Sort of like if those people rejected them, I feel like then that thing goes on the MLS or it goes on LoopNet, but usually it'll go to some people that they know. That's why the more contacts you have, the better chance you have of something landing in your deal. Like when Andy sold me a deal last year, I didn't go looking for the deal. He messaged me, said, "Hey, I got this deal. Do you want it?" So that's why it's very important. Several people in this room I did deals with, I lend money on. So I may have, I don't even know who you are, right? You guys reached out to me and asked for money, asked to help you out with something. So that's why these rooms are so powerful. That's literally how I started, was in these rooms. I would go to every single event like this back in the days.
So, and what I want to do is Vince is going to ask the more sophisticated questions. I'm going to ask the elementary school questions so that I can walk out of here and buy my first deal, Alex. Okay? Yeah. We're going to make sure that Hector walks out of here with a multi-family unit under his belt. All right? So we started with the finding of the deal. Okay, so that was your take, Alex. Wholesalers, MLS, broker pocket listings. Let's hear you, Keston.
So be loud. People need to know what you're doing, and they will bring you deals. So if you're on social media, say what you're looking for, be a part of the groups, and they will bring you deals. Broker outreach is definitely also one of the ways that how we source our deals. Talking to brokers and just letting them know. Now, for us, I think for everyone, understanding and knowing your goals is critically important. Like Alex was saying, they do 20 and under, and there's a reason for that, right? We tend to do 40 and over, 50 and over, Class A, right? Typically, most people want to be, they want Class C, Class B, because they want to do value add and they want to fix it up and that type of stuff. We do value add, but we do value add from a numbers perspective, because a lot of people that own multifamily properties, their books are terrible. And when you could go in and you could just rearrange and do the numbers in a way that, like, they let's say they had capital expenditures above the line, and capital expenditures coming out of their cash flow. Well, no, it's a capital expenditure that doesn't need to come out of your cash flow. It's separate, right? But their numbers reflect that, and you may have gotten a like $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month just by fixing that. Some people they charge. There's just so many things when it comes to the books that you could add value. You could find money. So there's a deal, the deal in Columbus, Georgia that we bought. The owner, they were giving away free cable. How many people have your owners give away cable? Right? No one. $40,000 a month. Wow. Right back.
That's crazy.
What that does to your top line and the evaluation of the property is crazy. And so when you find money in deals like that, and you find great assets, just like that, then it's a layup because it's a Class A. It doesn't need a bunch of work. That property was it was built in 2018, so it was pretty new, 2018 property.
How did you find it?
A broker bought it to someone, right? And that's
How did you find the broker? Let's go that deep. Just connections.
broker outreach.
Broker outreach. I'm asking the elementary school.
Yeah,
question.
no, broker outreach. And again, they didn't come to me. They came to someone on the team.
Got it.
And again, when people know what they do, what you do, they're like, hey, I got this opportunity, but you got to raise $1.5 million. I've never done that. And it's like, oh, cool. I can help, right? And you get in on a deal on that. And most of our deals come from other people, although we still call brokers, but being loud on social media, people know what you do. They will bring you deals.
So let's go one step back for those that don't know. Like, I didn't know what a Class A, Class B, Class C. Just briefly, we don't have to spend a lot of time on it. What's the advantage, I would say, of buying a property in a Class A, Class B, Class C? Both of you guys can answer that.
So Class A properties, these are newer properties in decent areas. Typically, they don't need a lot of work, so I like to say properties that were built in the last 10 years, and they look like they don't need a lot of work at all. Maintenance is little to none, and they're in good neighborhoods, right? They're around your Starbucks. They're around your stores that you want to live in. Class A would be those apartment complexes that you wouldn't mind living there yourself.
They feature amenities.
Yeah.
With amenities, right? And so you got pools, you got all these different things, dog parks, whatever you could think of, Class A. Class B is just a step down from that. There could or couldn't be, it would be the neighborhood at this point. So the neighborhood is a little bit more sketchy, but still decent. Class C, now we're talking like you start going into middle Georgia, so you start moving away from your metro areas.
Even sketchier.
Yeah, you start to go even sketchier, and Class D, somebody might knock on your door, pull out a gun, kind of you hear shots going off next door. It's like, oh, that's normal, right? That's your Class D. At least that's my version of it.
Yeah, so why this is important when Hector said, what is Class A, what is Class B? Because you have to be specific when you're doing broker outreach. This is another thing that I learned, that, when you reach out to brokers, you have to tell them specifically, my name is Alex. This is my pitch I don't buy Class A. My pitch is, my name is Alex. I'm looking for value add renovations. I'm looking to grow my money. I'm not looking to park my money. I don't want anything fancy. The nastier, the smellier, the more disgusting. That's what I'm looking for. Give me Class C. So you got to tell the broker exactly what you want. Just coming to someone and saying, hey, I'm looking to buy a multifamily, they're going to look at you like a fool, because you can sort of tell when somebody doesn't know real estate terminology, and that goes for different industries inside of real estate. When you're communicating with commercial brokers, residential brokers, multifamily brokers, the terminology is all different. So before you even approach anyone, you would need to pick up some literature, Google some stuff, watch some videos, learn the terminology of that sector. If you're dealing with self-storage, you got to know what's going on in self-storage. If you're dealing with multifamily, like I said, you got to be specific, because multifamily is a pretty wide range as well, So work on your sort of pitch. And what I used to do is I would copy and paste the exact same template on broker outreach days when I would spend time writing brokers, literally copy and paste. I could get out like 50, 75 emails per day. Half of them will ignore you. Half of them will think you're an idiot, but it doesn't matter what they think. Just keep doing it. And one or two people will come off and you'll build a relationship. But most people will ignore you. That's how it works. It's just a numbers game. Everyone ignores you, but then again, you're just one deal away from literally changing your bank account, changing your life. And it happens all the time, but you got to be persistent.
It's powerful.
Yeah, I was gonna just follow up and ask, what are some of the variables in data information that you should be asking when it comes to someone sending you a deal? Like, what are some of the things? I know with residential, you don't need as much as you would need for multifamily. So what are some of those variables so that you can analyze that deal to make sure that it's a good opportunity?
And I'm gonna add something else to that question. What's the easy way of like identifying, man, this is a good deal or a bad deal? Like 2 or 3 things that you're like, man, this is no good. What are you looking for?
So in real estate, when somebody is presenting a deal to you, it's the same like a first date when you're dating someone. They're dressed up, they got the high heels, the hair. Same thing the brokers are doing on the packages they're presenting to you. First of all, I don't believe anything they send me. Every number to me on there is a lie, because literally these mom and pop owners have the most mismanaged financials ever. So what happens is the brokers who are listing the deals for them are sort of putting together some sort of pro forma, some sort of numbers just to look presentable, not to go out on the market and scan like the little napkin that the owner gave him. Like, here's how I collect my rent. So for me, I do my own numbers, my own analysis. For example, when I'm buying apartment building, this is my method exactly. I go to Zillow, I put the zip code in, I see what the big apartments are renting for, the posts, the gables, all those. I subtract. If they're renting a 1-bedroom for $1,800, now I know I can't do that because I'm not offering a dog park, I'm not offering pools, none of that. So right away, if I see in that zip code Gables is going for $1,800, I know that I'm going to be around $1,400 for the same type of unit. Now, off of that $1,400 number, I build up my own 1,400 times 8 units that I'm buying, make my own numbers. And when you do this several times, that's why I say the most important thing is analyze them. You get really comfortable doing this. You'll already know how much average Georgia Power is for an apartment building, how much utilities are, how much the waste management charges you for the dumpsters outside, $250 a month. You multiply that by 12, you get your waste management for the year. You know how much landscaping is, $150 a month. So when you get to the point when it's all repetitive, you know, it's pretty easy to do. But I don't believe anything the brokers send me.
Yeah, so when a deal comes to me, we do what we call napkin underwrite. And so I want to know, what does it rent for? What's the potential rent? So you want to know the current rent, what the potential rent could be, and what the cap rate is. Give me those 3 things, and I can napkin underwrite it to see if it would make sense to do right away. Y'all want to do some quick math to see what I'm talking about?
Let's do it.
You want to do it?
Let's do it.
Take your phones out. Let's do a quick, and you see what I'm talking about. So the Columbus, Georgia property, when we bought it, it was being rented at $800, right? It was $800 a unit. It's 48 units. And what we did was we knew that in the area next door, literally across the street, there was an older asset being rented for, I think it was $1,100, right? What's the delta there? So that would be 1,100 minus 800
times 48.
So what's that? That's a $300 between what it's currently renting at and what we could possibly get for rent. Make sense?
Yeah.
So then you multiply that by 48. So you multiply that by 48 because it's 48 units. And so that's how much, just that one increase, that's how much money we would make per month. So now you multiply that by 12, which is per year, so annually, that's $172,000 that we would be making annually, right? And so the cap rate, everyone's following so far?
What was the property across the street renting for?
1,100.
That's like your comp.
Yeah, that's like your comp. And so the cap rate in the area is 5%. So divided by 5%.
Where do you find the cap rate?
So the cap rate is typically you could call brokers and ask them like what cap is this area the building's typically selling at. The cap rate is like your comps in the area, right? So that's your cap rate.
It's usually a percentage,
It's
right,
usually a percentage.
that they put on that property.
And it's typically in line with the classes of the property as well. So in this area, it was a 5 cap. So divided by 5%, what do you guys get?
3.4.
3.4 million. Is this a deal worth going after? So this
1,000%.
this 3.4 million means that there's a potential that we could get 3.4 million in added value to the property just by raising the rents.
But usually raising the rents comes with renovation expenses.
But it's a Class A asset, so it doesn't need work. So we did absolutely nothing. You guys want to hear how much leases, the leases we're signing right now?
How much?
We're signing $1,500 leases right now. You want to do the math on that?
Wow.
We're signing $1,500 leases right now. And so when a deal comes to me, I just need to know those 3 things. What is it renting for now? What could I potentially rent it at? And what's the cap rate? This makes me know if I need to call somebody else to analyze the deal, because I don't analyze deals. I don't go that deep into numbers. Spreadsheet is not my thing. I'm on the front line. Do you guys realize that we have absolutely different personalities? He's a numbers guy. You said you was a banker. You were a numbers guy. Accountant, right? Like, I was a fake IT guy. I couldn't wait to run from spreadsheets. I don't want to see a spreadsheet. I'm good with creating attention, getting attention, telling people what I do, run my mouth, and that's how I get deals. He has a different approach. They both work. You do what works for you. That's good. And so I find a person who knows how to analyze a deal the right way, and I'm like, bro, this one, we say it might have legs. I'm like, this deal have legs, bro. Check it out. And that's how we got this deal. So this is what I look for when I'm analyzing multifamily. That's
Great.
By the way, like, let's say you know nothing about analyzing deals or who to talk to. You realize that there's people who do this for you online, Upwork.com and sites like this. Literally, if you go there, they will analyze your entire deal, create all these crazy spreadsheets for you, and it's not that expensive. I've had, and they're professional people. I mean, they have degrees. There's people who've underwritten thousands of deals. So you don't even need to know spreadsheets and all of this. If you're sort of got the deal, you think it has potential, you can hire someone. Like I did that before, like $750. They analyzed everything for me. I didn't even need to do that. So don't forget that we live in a digital world where we're very connected to the other side of the world. Like right now I'm getting blueprints and engineering and all that done in Pakistan for a deal that here would have cost me around $20,000, but I'm paying $2,500 for the same stuff. So just don't forget that you can utilize the world that's not America also to benefit you when these people are just as knowledgeable as anyone else.
Could I add something to what he just said or highlight something? Because if someone just heard, man, you paid $750, he paid $2,500 to analyze a deal. This is a deal he doesn't know is going to work at. And most people would be like, you know what? Maybe it's not good. This is probably not a good deal. Would you have paid $750 to get a deal that has $3-point-something million in it? What's the ROI on that?
Crazy.
Right? And so I'm challenging your mindset a little bit because I know for some people, they probably say, well, you got the money to do that. Right? But if you know how to do what I just showed you, in napkin underwriting really quick to see if it has some type of legs in it, that gives you, like, guys, I went into over $100,000 of debt in paying for mentorships, paying for things to see if it works. Because I knew at some point something had to hit.
That's good.
Bet on yourself.
Because I bet on myself. And so I got to challenge you guys, because I looked at y'all faces when he said that, and it was almost like you had no hope. But I want to encourage you guys.
Yeah, come on, talk about it.
That just learn the napkin underwriting for now, and it's okay to invest money into something and take a chance on yourself. Because when it works, it's going to pay off.
Hey, I want to do something real quick. If you have your phones and you're not following the Facebook page for these meetups, go to it right now, because I want to take a napkin and I want to write down what you just talked about and share it with all you guys. Would that be cool? Is that cool? All right, so get your phones out if you haven't followed the page already, and go ahead and follow. We're going to put this quick napkin method that you just talked about online, so we'll get that to you. So we're basically moving now from finding the deal. Let's say I located a 20-unit property, and now we stepped into underwriting a little bit. So you guys talked about the both different methods of underwriting. Let's say it checks out, right? Napkin underwriting checks out. Full accounting blast checks out. And now we're under contract. We submit a letter of intent, and then now we need to fund this deal. So let's get into to the weeds of funding. What's the next step?
So just like we talked about broker outreach, you should always be doing banking outreach. What is banking outreach? You have to present yourself as a bankable candidate in the eyes of the bank. So there's a time when, just like I did with brokers, I would copy and paste the same email. I did the exact same thing to every single bank that I could find of. So I would just Google local bank in Gwinnett, local bank in Marietta. Boom, 10 come up, 10 come up. You go on their website. Each of them has meet our staff. Here, meet these people. All of them have a vice president of lending, commercial lending, residential lending. They're all, the information is there. You have your same exact email template, copy and paste. This is who I am. This is what I'm doing. You want to create a credibility packet. It's a quick PDF, one page, 2 page. This is the deals we've done. This is the profit we've made, blah, blah, blah. Just attach it on there. Again, you'll send 50 of these, 48 of those people will think you're an idiot. 2 people will respond to you and say, you know what, this sounds good. Give you a call. They'll give you 10 minutes, 15 minutes to talk to you.
Now, is this for people that have done deals flipping, or you're like, what if somebody has no experience?
If you have no experience but you have a W-2 paycheck, you're bankable. But, you know, obviously to a bank, it's better if you have some kind of experience, which is why if you have no experience, you may want to partner with someone who has experience. So like, let's say you brought me a deal, but you have no experience. But if I give you my credibility packet to attach to that email and say, me and Alex are doing this deal together, okay, it's pretty hard not to lend to me because I'm just showing them, here's the 10 deals I did in the past 24 months. So that's why you don't really need to have experience. You just utilize someone who has experience.
Good.
The last 17-unit deal that I bought and partnered with, if you guys know Gino, he found the deal on a text message campaign. He wasn't bankable then because he was he's only like 22 now still. So he came to me and said, hey, I got this deal on a text blast. This guy wants to sell it to me. But so he came to me and we used my tax returns, my credibility packet, and we went and got a loan from a local bank. So you don't need to have experience. You just need somebody on your team who will vouch for you. And, you know, we did that deal 50-50, and I brought the funding, he brought the deal, basically. So it's possible.
That's great.
Yeah, I was gonna say exactly the same thing. If it is you were like me and you just left, you had no job, you had no experience, You find someone, they call it, you find a KP, someone that is going to sign on the deal for you and be a partner on that deal with you. There's a lot of people with a lot of money and a lot of credibility that's too lazy or doesn't have the time to go out and find deals. And so when you are able to present a deal to someone who has the credibility, who has money, who has like everything that looks bankable, if it's a deal, they will say yes. Because you're gonna manage the deal. It's gonna be passive for them, but active for you, and that might be where you start. But once you get your net worth up and you start doing these types of deals, then you get in a year or two, you could do it for yourself. And so it's just a process, and respecting and understanding that process is paramount. So I would say the same thing, just partner with someone who has the credentials. But looking at banks, I don't know about you guys growing up, but going to a bank is kind of scary, typically. Like growing up, like they would almost seem like your enemy. Banking, people in banks are your friends. They want to do deals. They want to lend you their money bad. That's why they're always doing different types of incentives. That's why they're doing a lot of these things. And once I shifted my mindset around bankers wanting to be your friends, you could call someone at the bank once you build that relationship, and they will sit on the phone with you and underwrite the deal for you. You could send them a deal, and they will underwrite it. Once you build that initial relationship, they will do all of the heavy lifting for you. Why? Because they want to lend that money out. That's what they need to do. They need to lend that money out.
Do you know what cash is on a balance sheet to a bank? It's a liability.
It's a liability.
It's a liability. Literally, it's a liability on their books. You may, on your personal financial statement, write your personal bank account as an asset. Any bank considers their cash a liability. They have to do something with it, which is why you saw the collapse of those banks in the past month, because they had too much cash and they didn't know what to do with it, and they weren't allowed to keep that much cash, so they started investing it into but that's what he's saying, they want to lend. But from my experience, I would say that the big banks, the top 5 banks, they will never lend to you. Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Truist, you will never get a cent out of them. You got to go to community banks. Those community banks, so banks use different tranches of money when they lend. There's banks that are called portfolio lenders, where they're lending their own money from their own bank portfolio. So they're not going and getting money from Fannie and Freddie Mae. So it's literally that bank's, like I use Synovus Bank, for example. I use Quantum Bank. So they're lending out their own money, which is a lot easier to get that money out of them because, again, they have to do something with it, and typically their rates are lower. Also, the community banks have been a game changer for me because they've given me lines of credits. So the first line of credit I ever got was Bank of North Georgia, $50,000. Those lines of credits are powerful also. Like when you start paying them back, using them, paying them back, using them, paying them back. Same thing. Like now, they've increased it. When one of them was like $350,000. I have so that line of credit that I got from Bank of North Georgia happened exactly how I told you guys. I would literally copy and paste the same email over and over and over, and finally some guy responded to me saying, "Yes, come in. We're interested. We'll talk to you." But so. That's what I did, and to get that first line of credit.
So one of the questions that I have, it really goes into the mindset piece, but before I get there, when you are getting funding for a deal, you're raising how much money from the bank and then how much money from private lenders? Is there a typical like percentage?
Yeah, they do about 70. They do about 70%. They may lend on, and then you raise the 30, 70, 80, right? It changes depending on how big the deal is, right? And do you guys do creative financing in here? Yeah? Creative financing? Cool.
Have you heard of creative finance?
So
Are you guys awake? Pretty boring.
Good question.
So creative financing is basically a way to buy properties without necessarily needing the bank. And so there are ways that you could structure a deal even in commercial where you don't necessarily need a bank. You could have the seller become the bank. And that's really powerful, especially when you're doing smaller multifamily. You could have the seller become the bank, and they're going to hold a note for you. And it's like a promissory note. It's an IOU that says, you're going to pay me on this day just like a bank, and you get it sealed, and boom, now this person is the bank, and you pay them. That's really powerful, like, to know and to understand how to do creative financing, especially today, because deals that you thought that you needed to get qualified for, like, remember when I told you guys I bought all those properties, 21 properties in 2021? I was not fundable. I did not have a job. It was my first year out. But guess what you don't need when you're doing creative financing? They don't care about your credit. They're not going to ask you to see those things. They are lending it to you. And so this is a way that you could get around needing funding. The other piece you are going to need is learning how to raise money. That's the other piece that you're going to need, because they're still going to want a down payment or still going to hold a note for a certain amount. So let's say they held a note for 80% of the loan or 90% of the loan. You still have to raise that 10%. And so now that's a entirely different conversation, but that's a really great way to get around needing the bank if you're not fundable right now. So first, it's to find a partner and have somebody else sign on the loan for you. And the next thing would be to use creative financing, where the seller becomes the bank, and now you're able to get into that deal without needing the bank at all.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So when I was just starting out, when I first was doing flipping houses, I was doing YouTube videos. I found someone on Fiverr or Thumbtack. I was paying $450 for them to come out to my flips before we started the flip, during the flip, and after the flip. I made like 10 of these videos. They're on my website now to this day. But I used those 10 videos, and they were pretty powerful to raise money, because it's one thing telling someone what you do, telling them you're in real estate, you're an investor, but it's a different story when I started showing them these videos. So literally, when I would go anywhere, my eye doctor, once upon a time, like 5 years ago, she was like, checking my eyes. I told her, hey, I'm a real estate investor, blah, blah, blah. Because why? Because I know that doctors, attorneys, they're the ones who have a bunch of cash, but they don't have the time. They don't have time to do this. So literally, if you document what you do and then send it to people who you think are high net worth individuals, which is how I had success, it's pretty powerful to do that. And their money is just sitting in Chase Bank. They're waiting for you to come knock on the door and tell them, I have this great deal in Atlanta. They'll invest with you.
That's good. Vince, did you have anything?
No, not on funding.
So the last piece, and then we're going to turn it over to you guys, and we're going to open up the floor. We're going to have some conversation around you guys' questions. But, you were talking about the story of having no fear when you're approaching bankers, right? And I recently had that experience, and it's powerful, when you believe that, hey, I can just walk in and have a real honest conversation with I think I met with the president of Marist Bank of a branch in Canton, and that was like a big mindset shift for me, because a lot of times it was like the same like you. I grew up kind of like fearing the bank, and then I worked for a bank, but it was like that mindset shift that needs to happen in all of us that, you know, tells you like, hey, you can do this. Like you have what it takes to invest, to be successful. Oh, sorry. To be successful, to be, you know, to own multifamily, like what Keston said, like they're all human at the end of the day that own these properties, right? So talk just for 2 seconds on mindset, and then we're gonna turn it over to them to ask the questions. But I think this is so powerful, and it's one of my favorite topics to talk about that I get excited about, because I think we are just one thought away from the life that we want to live. I really believe that. And I think mindset is just so powerful. So what have you guys done that you maybe practice on a daily basis? You know, we hear on social media visualization, there's affirmations. Like, what is it that you guys do that you think has allowed you guys, mindset-wise, to be where you're at today? And that's a loaded question, so you can take as much time as you need, and then we'll go on to the next thing.
So I would say for me, it's pure 100% dedication. I don't know anything about Netflix. I don't know anything about any show on TV. I don't know about anything happening. It's a block, completely focused, 100%. If I'm not with my family, every day I get up at 7 o'clock, take my son to school, go to my office. In my office, I'm working 8 to 2 every single day. So no distractions, nothing. So the mindset is that I'm not doing anything. A pretty boring life, not doing anything, literally analyzing deals, buying deals, selling deals. That's it, nothing else. I have no clue what movie is out, what's going on, I don't know anything what's going on. That's it, 100%. No drugs, no alcohol really, nothing. That's it.
For me, I don't do drugs either. But I used to be like that. I have changed, and I'm a lot more lenient, because I believe when you start to learn and understand the laws of the universe, that you could make things happen in ways, it's almost like a cheat code. I believe that, like Spider-Man, right? When Peter Parker, he was this kid who was a science guy, and he got bit by a spider. And then all of a sudden, he was just kind of sticking onto crap. Like, he's like, oh God, I'm stuck to the wall. I'm, like, what's going on with me? And then throughout the movie, he learns how to use these superpowers, and then he became our friendly superhero, right? I believe we're like Spider-Man. I believe that we have these powers that we don't know how to use. And it's almost like we're falling off a building and we're like, come on, web crawl, like, come on. And I think for most people, we try so hard, we use brute force, we use like, man, I gotta grind it out. And I did that until I started to understand that we all live on frequencies. And just like the people who watch the Super Bowl and you've seen Rihanna dance pregnant, if it is that you met in a bar or something like that, you'd be able to have a conversation with someone who's seen the Super Bowl, because you guys were on the same frequency. You watched the same frequency. If you came and spoke to me, I wouldn't be able to talk to you about that, and it would be like a 5-second conversation, because I was on a different frequency because I just didn't watch it. And it's the same thing with your goals. If your goal is to get $100 million multifamily properties, 8-unit multifamily properties, you put yourself on the frequency with that person, and all of a sudden you're gonna learn how to do it. Because this saying that they say that birds of a feather flock together and all that stuff is so true. When you put yourself around someone and you learn their habits, do you think if you hung out with a millionaire who were buying multifamily properties and you hung out with this person every day for the next 90 days, you would not learn a thing or two about buying multifamily properties? You would, because now you're on the same frequency, right? It's the same thing like when we hang out. That's why they say we're the sum total of the 5 people around us. That's because we're on the same frequency. And so what I do, I pay to be in the room. This year alone, I probably spent over 200 grand on to be around people.
And if you can't afford to be in the room, be the server.
Well, you be the server.
Be the help.
That's
Get
100%.
in the room. Get in the room somehow.
100%. But like I told you guys before, I went into debt paying to be in the room because I started to understand this whole frequency thing, and it was a cheat code. But once you start understanding it, then you have these things called paradigms that starts to pull you back, because we all know a lot of good stuff right now, right? Like, we all know enough to make our first million. Why aren't we doing it? And this is where accountability comes in. Like the accountability and being in a community of people that's going in that direction. And so I use more of that philosophy to get to where I want to go to, because there is a long way. The long way is to grind it out. You'll get there when you're 60. Congrats. Or you can learn how to use the frequencies, go on someone's frequency of the thing you desire. Put yourself there, get uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable, it's not fun. But when you get there, you could get there so much faster. And that's the reason why we're able to do what we've done in such a short space of time. So you either have time to kind of go about it the way you've been doing it, or you could put yourself on the frequency of the people you want to be like. But it's having that goal. It all comes down to who you want to be, the life you want to live, and that goal. And then you put yourself on that frequency, just like the people that watched Super Bowl. It's literally like TV. You just got to be on the same frequency of it.
That's good. As my friend Arya always says, amazing. This was amazing. So thank you guys for sharing. We're gonna open up the floor for a couple questions, and then we'll do some more networking. But let's hear a couple questions from you guys. Oh man, everybody's scared. Yes.
Okay, so for you with creative financing, what exactly is your pitch when you are talking to sellers? Because I do remember talking about promissory notes in real estate school, but how exactly do you come to these sellers to sell yourself, essentially?
So when I go to a seller, I make it all about them. I want to understand what their needs are. I want to understand why they're even thinking about selling. I want to get to know them. I make it all about them. At some point, they're going to ask me, well, what do you do? Like, tell me about you, and we could get there. But once I know about them, then I go into my pitch, and people sell themselves in different ways. I'm a family man. I like the family approach. Some people like the business corporate approach. I work for this company and blah, blah, blah. I like the family approach. Man, my wife and I, we're buying properties, and based on your goals and what you're trying to get to, I believe if we're able to structure a deal like this, this is how you could get to where you need to get to. And so I paint a picture back to the seller based on their needs, their desires, their goals, and now they could see their future in my plan. Good. Boom, contract signed.
I send different offers. So let's say he's at
It's the numbers guy.
500. He's at 500,000. I'm not. I'm like at a 400,000 buy price. So I'm going to send 2 or 3 different offers. So I'm going to give him option 1, a fast close cash offer. It's going to be 400,000. I'm going to give him option 2. Let me get financing from a bank. I'm going to need 30 to 45 days, but I can meet you at around 450. I can't get to 500. Option 3 is if you carry the note and do the seller financing, I'll meet you at 500,000. So I like to present different offers. Even on the MLS, when you're talking to agents, same thing. I don't use GAR forms or anything when I first submit my offers. I'll just get the agent's email and write them myself saying, I know you guys are asking 250, but here's 2 or 3 options that I have, run it by your seller, see what they think. And it's pretty powerful because I did a deal where the guy accepted 0% interest. He let me, I bought the house, he let me do the flip, I put it on the market, sold it, paid them off, but because I offered what he wanted, he carried the note the whole time while I was repairing the house, while it was on the market. So I did that whole flip basically. All I had to do was just pay for the renovation costs. And that's why when you present 2, 3 offers, you may think it's a stupid offer, telling somebody 0% interest, but you don't know what that person is thinking on their end. And you let them choose. You give them an option and you let them choose.
That's good. I saw a couple more hands go up. Yes.
When it comes to multifamily, like the large stuff, with being variable interest debt, right? Let's say there's going to be stress in the multifamily side of things, where the economy is going, or when their rate goes up, right? Where is the opportunity there? Is where I get lost because, for example, you've got your 30% that an owner's group carries, right, or the main investors, and then you syndicate the rest, and that 70% of that is from the bank, right? So your underlying debt, and that's a variable rate. But then does that just go back to the bank, and then they take that off their balance sheet? Is that the opportunity, or is there somewhere in between there before they go to like default?
So in the next 12 to 24 months, this opportunity is going to happen everywhere for those people who had that variable debt that's coming due. So let's say they underwrote the deal at a 5% cap rate, but the interest now that they're going to get quoted is going to be 7.5. They're going to be upside down on their cash flow. So what they're going to have to do when they refinance, they have to refinance because their note is coming due. They're either going to have to come to the table with cash to the table to refinance this deal, is what you're going to see a lot of people. They won't have the cash to do it. Or the deal is going to go back to the bank, which you already see it. It's happening all over. All the big guys are already defaulting on all their loans, especially in the office space. They're getting hammered over there. They can't fill space fast enough, and they're just letting the banks take it. So same thing's going to happen in multifamily because a lot of people, all commercial loans are basically 3 to 5 years. They don't give you more than that. So that's why people who bought deals, 2020, 2021, their notes are coming due right now, this year, next year. So it's going to be.
You might want to be ready to sell. Yeah.
You should be. I would definitely say this is where underwriting comes into play and being like ultra conservative. When we underwrote the deals, we stress test it. It's like what's the worst we could get to before like we're upside down? And it's typically somewhere like 8-9%, somewhere there, until like we're break even or something like that, based on the potential, right? But in a market like that, typically what happens is the rent rates go up at the same time. So there could be a balance, possibly, right? Like just like when the interest rates started going up, the reason why we're able to going from 11 or 1,200 to 15 is because everything started going up. So we go up with the market, and that cash flow is locked in because as this go up, the interest rate go up, so does the rent. And so we're still in a great place, and still hoping it goes down, but we don't have a crystal ball on that. But stress testing with your underwriting is the most important thing. Like, just don't get too excited too fast. If we don't have like 1 to 2 points that we could go up or down kind of thing, free flow, we probably won't do it.
Keston, bro, love your energy, man.
Thank you, man.
Love your story. My name is Joe Castaneda, managing partner of Duke Housing. Tell us that deal you're working, that $40 million deal. Tell us the underwriting process you're currently going through with that, if you don't mind.
You want me to make a phone call? So I could give you the basics. I know.
How involved are you? Like, are you using partners to?
Oh, yeah, sure. So yeah, it's a raise syndicating, where so this is also great.
So what's syndicated?
So syndicating is where you bring investors. You got a pool of investors to come together and put their money in this syndication. The structure is called a syndication, right? On the other side, it's a creative deal where we're assuming a loan, and this loan is it's 24.5 million. We're assuming the builder who built it is a brand new deal, built in 2022. We're assuming that loan. It's a 10-year fixed, right? 4.25% for 10 years. So being able to assume that loan, we have to raise the 17. So that's the structure of how, like the debt structure of it. So we're taking this loan, and assuming the loan means that we're taking the loan from the builder, and we're just switching the names on it. So it's gonna go from his name to our name. And then we're bringing in this pool of investors on the other side to meet the rest of the 40 million. But we're buying it directly from the builder.
That's the creative way. Would a bank allow that?
So the bank is allowing that, because when it comes to commercial, they do allow assumptions, loan assumptions. And so they do allow you to take over somebody else's note. Not necessary in residential, but they do allow it in commercial.
So, pro tip, if you buy an apartment or a house, you make a LLC for that single asset. And then when you sell the asset, you can just sell the LLC, which you want that entity not to own any other assets. So if you're selling an 8-unit multifamily, part of the transaction is you're just selling the LLC to the new buyer, so he sort of automatically assumes the loan for that property. So it's a bargaining tool and a leverage tool, so you can tell the new buyer, hey, I have this 10-year loan locked in at 4.25%, and I'm going to include that as part of the sale. So that's just something to consider when you structure the purchase of your assets to do that.
Awesome. Any more questions? A couple more questions and we'll close out. Man,
Let me piggyback off of that one. Selling the actual LLC or the entity. How much value does that bring to the actual deal? Because the owner can actually leverage the LLC to pull business credit if it's a seasoned entity.
So for all of my deals, I create a new LLC just for that purchase, basically. So my main entity, is a seasoned entity with tax returns, but usually for my apartments or houses, it's not a seasoned entity because I'm usually not keeping them that long. I'm selling them within a year or 2 or 3. But my strategy may have no value at all to a buyer. He may go and get his own debt completely. So I'm just saying it's something that you can keep in your tool belt as a strategy to do, to offer sort of an incentive or a bonus to your potential buyer. Yeah.
Keston, I know you casually mentioned how you were bringing 17 million in. How'd you do that?
A lot of work. Be loud. Be loud. So we had to get really strategic in going after doctors and lawyers and pulling lists of people who invest in deals and reaching out and keeping different meetups and seminars, and it's a grind. It's a grind, but
How many people are on the team to raise $17 million? How many people does that take?
a neighborhood. I mean, there are people.
520. What range is?
So the team itself is 6, 7 people. The team, but we leverage other people who knows people that have money that want to invest, and we teach them multifamily kind of thing. And so we bargain certain types of things to get to that number.
So it's interesting because there are people called like capital raisers who all they do is literally just raise funds. So if you have a good deal and you give them all the financials, everything, they go out on your behalf and raise the funds for you. In return, they get a percentage of that. So if they bring in $2 million, they'll take around 1% to 5%, whatever. But there's literally professional companies and professional people. That's all they do. They just raise capital on your behalf. They already have the connections. They already know the doctors. They already know the high net worth individuals. You just have to bring them a deal. The numbers are all vetted and everything. So that's something else that you can keep in mind if you ever get to that point. You can find these people all over LinkedIn, and they're all over there. All they do is just raise capital.
It's awesome. It's awesome. One more question from anybody, and we'll close it out so we can network. If I don't see any hand, yeah.
Just to ask a quick question. So you said in the beginning stages of your process, you did wholesaling. Do you just have like any tips on that, and just like any advice? And when you were getting, because I'm assuming you probably did single family. When you were doing single family, is there reasons to why you were like, I can't scale with single family, and you chose to do multifamily instead, or did you kind of just do both?
Yeah, I did. No, I didn't do both. I stopped. So wholesaling is great for active income, right? But wholesaling is really a marketing company. You are a marketing company, right? And that wasn't what I wanted to do. Personally, it wasn't a goal of mine. And so, and I think I was sharing this with you, most people, when they become an entrepreneur, they start doing these things. If I were to ask you now, you'd be like, I want freedom. I have these things to do, right? I want to travel the world. When you become an entrepreneur, you could hit your goal and you forget about why you started. You continue to work, you don't travel, your kids still miss you, like all that, it just happens because you're so addicted to working. I got to my goal, and right now I'm like done. I'm pursuing my purpose now, right? My purpose is to help people with their mindset and help them hit their goals. And so I have converted. Do I still do deals? Sure, because people bring me deals now. I don't market for it or anything. So I use the cash from my business and invest into deals. But you got to know why you want to do each one of those things. For me, I knew where I wanted to go. I wanted cash flow to sustain my lifestyle. So it's not that wholesaling was a bad thing, but I was not going to get freedom from doing it. And I know I didn't want another job. And so that's the reason why I stopped it. Multifamily got me there faster, right? So I still have Airbnbs, I still have single family properties, like those, it still exists. I don't think one is better than the other. I think I would advise anyone that wants to leave their 9-to-5 job, like get 5 Airbnbs. Like don't go after multifamily. Just go maybe if you get a 4-plex, 6-plex, and you could do Airbnbs, like that's the fastest way, to me, in my opinion, out than going after a 40 unit and all of that. So it really depends on why you're doing it, like understanding that, because once you have that clear direction as to where you want to go, the path becomes easy. Now you can put yourself on that vibrancy, that frequency as to how to get there. But if you're confused, you're doing this, you're doing that, you become confused and you get stuck, and probably you don't hit your goals and you're like, crap, this real estate crap don't work. Let me go do crypto, right? And so being clear on why you're doing it and coming up with a path to do it is what I would recommend. I did what aligned with where I wanted to be, you know?
Just know that flipping and wholesaling is the worst position to be in financially, because short-term capital gain is the worst form of punishment you can do to yourself. So the main goal of flipping and wholesaling should be to pump that money into rentals. Rentals are the true avenue to financial freedom and cash flow monthly. Flipping and wholesaling basically doesn't get you, it'll just give you cash, but you have to pump that cash into rentals, because other than that, you're just constantly just doing it and doing it and doing it, and you can never get out of that rat race, basically. So you have to pump the flipping and wholesaling money into rentals, which you have to know your purpose, which if your goal is financial freedom, then you have to keep buying rentals to get there. And there's different forms of rentals. Some people go multifamily, some people go storage units, some people buy who knows what. But again, like he said, you have to know what you're doing and what your purpose is, because you'll get to a point where money doesn't really matter. If you have $100,000 in your bank account, 1.5 million, 267,000, it absolutely doesn't matter at some point. When you have no money, it matters a lot. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, you have $1,000, money matters. But once you build up your net worth and you sort of achieve financial freedom, if your goal is just money, it's sort of stupid, because, if I have $1 million in my bank account, or if I have 125,000, I'm still eating the same food, I'm still wearing the same clothes. So you sort of have no purpose. It's just a number. It's sort of a useless number, because you're paying your mortgage, you're paying your car note, but you just have some random number that you don't know what to do with it. You sort of, like he's saying, his purpose now is to help people. But if his purpose was just to get another 50,000, another 25,000, it sort of gets boring after a while to do that. So
Yeah.
just keep that in mind.
That's good. Listen, I want to honor these guys' times, but I want to give them a second to just tell you where you can find them. They both have coaching programs and things, and so I'm going to let them talk about it. But hasn't this been awesome? Can we put our hands together for these guys, man? So where can they find you and ask you questions and that type of thing?
So my Instagram is Kes on Purpose, Kes on Purpose. And I have a group coaching program, guys, and for being here, I have a QR code that I forgot at home. I have it on my phone. But what I want to do for you guys is to waive the first month. It's typically $597 and $67 a month. I want to waive, just for Hector and this group, the first payment of it, and have you guys come in to see what we do. I do not teach real estate. I'll be super clear. I do not teach real estate, but what I help people with is understanding how to put yourself on the frequency, how to understand what's holding you back and what's keeping you back. And so I have helped so many people quit their jobs by doing deals, because they now understand their purpose, they understand why they're doing what they're doing and how to achieve it. So I'll have that QR code on my phone, so make sure you get it before you leave.
Yeah. We also will email you guys his information. We have y'all's email, so we can get that to you. Alex, how can they find you?
So my Instagram is transformation_Poppy. I have nothing to sell you. Absolutely nothing. The way I can help you is, if you find a deal, I can partner with you. If you need money, I can be your hard money lender. If you need, the only thing I sell ever is I sell hour of my time, which is $497 an hour. Yes, it's expensive, but that's how much it
That's
costs.
not expensive.
The link is in my Instagram if anybody needs my hour. But other than that, the only way I can help you is bring me your deals. If you need lending partners, if you need funding partners, if you need advice on your deals, I can help you. And if you don't know what to do, but you got a multifamily under contract and stuff like that, if you need lender contacts around Atlanta, I can help you with that.
Amazing. One more hand clap for these guys, man. And Vince, you want to close us out?
Yeah, so once again, thank you guys for coming along. We're going to spend the next 20, 30 minutes networking with each other. Make sure you guys connect with as many people as possible, exchange contact information, and we'll see you guys next month.